What is up with it? Today we are going to be watching the NCL Italy Week 1 Mirko versus Gianni. I'm a little bit familiar with Gianni, I think. Mirko, I'm not sure who he is. Mirko's going to be on BY. Giovanni is going to be on Dofi. Should be a great match. Some interesting stuff about this BY list. First of all, the Amaru. Never seen that in a BY list. Pretty interesting tech, honestly. Couple Namis, only one Makino, one Thunderbolt Sabo, one Zombie Luffy, one Ice Age, one one-legged toy soldier. Um, so a lot of really interesting lists that we've seen in these smaller tournaments for the NCL so far, both NCL Italy and NCL Germany. We've seen some really creative lists. I know there's a lot of metagaming going on, and also when it's such a small tournament, you could argue consistency is not as important because you're going to be playing all good players. Um, if you both just see a really standard vanilla consistent list, it's more bound to come down to luck. Whereas if you play a list with a higher ceiling, um, you put that luck a little bit more in your favor, arguably. Here we have the Dofi lists. Um, three Jozu, three Gravity Blade, three Pudding. Looks like how many 2Ks? We're rocking 12 2Ks, only two Geckos. Nothing too notable about that list, I would say. I don't know who won the rock paper scissors. I would imagine it's Giovanni. Um, we're seeing a couple 2Ks and a Jinbei in our opening five, which is or in our buggy, which is really great. Honestly, I would not have hated just drawing the Jinbei, so that way we could have played it standing. Um, but I think this is fine as well. Um, we're gonna pick it back up. Okay, that's fine. I don't hate this by any stretch of the imagination. Um, I do, I yeah, I think it's fine. Mirko, gonna go ahead and swing five. I imagine we will count out or out of. Okay, so Giovanni is gonna have a very different approach, I imagine, than I would. I think Jinbei is like really important here. Just to be able to say, hey, if you don't awaken on seven, I'm gonna have a bunch of bodies to swing at you. Um, I'm really not sure what's going on here, to be honest with you. I'm gonna let him cook and we'll kind of see how it goes. Got a really big grip for the BY player here. 9 cards, I believe. Just gonna go ahead and play down the Rocket Luffy and the Sabo. So still at 7 cards. And we're on 8 Dawn. So I would have really loved if we had a Jinbei in our hand, I think. But we'll see. We'll see what he goes for. Um, he has another Jozu, so if he wanted to, he could Jozu this Rocket Luffy, and I think that's what he's for sure going for. Um, Not finding any Weevils or Boas or 6K bodies, which can be pretty important in this matchup, but we do have 2 Jozu, so that's definitely helpful. If Mirko finds a baby Luffy, he will be able to awaken next turn and be um, either 7k 2 life or 9k 1 life, because he does have the Flampe into Hiyori into Punch Luffy. Replaying out this buggy is pretty interesting. I have to imagine we'll draw the Boa, hit the Jinbei, but we'll see what he's planning. It didn't really look like he put them on top of his deck that way. I have to imagine we'll counter this. I think he's deciding if he just wants to give a 2k here. I think I'm okay. We have 4 2ks in our hand. I think it's okay to ditch one of them. Yeah, just the Mihawk is perfectly acceptable here. Gonna go ahead and play down this Kuzan. So it's looking like we're choosing not to awaken this turn, which I think is completely fine. We have 5 Dawn left. I imagine we'll want to just play down this Rocket Luffy. But it could also be the Fist Luffy. I could see an argument for either one. Or it looks like he has a third card in his hand that he's considering playing. I'm not sure what it is. It is. Okay, it's just another Rocket Luffy. Okay. And he did draw the Sengoku. I'm not sure I really get it, to be honest. Also, I believe we should be on 10 Dawn, yeah. I feel like drawing the bow here would have been pretty nice. Just to play that Jinbei off top. And then we're essentially playing 2 characters for 0 Dawn. And we get to do some pretty obnoxious swings. And then depending on what our opponent does, we could potentially pudding. Or we can always Jinbei Law. I'm just not really sure exactly what our thought process is here. I think here I would start with maybe an 8 from Jozu. Maybe a 7 is fine as well. Either a 7 or an 8, and then I think I would go, yeah, a 7 is perfectly fine. And I think I'd swing leader next, and I'd go Jinbei Law, bounce my buggy, bounce their Kuzan. This is one of those times where we definitely want to be getting rid of the Kuzan. Okay, so now our opponent only has 6 cards in hand. Okay, I am pretty okay with this adaptation. This adaptation is pretty cute. Once the opponent gives us 2 cards, just saying, hey. But at the same time, we didn't do anything this turn. We actually didn't do anything. We and our opponent kind of just turn skipped each other. No one actually played the game, really. Which I think is advantageous for BY. So I guess I'll just pause it to talk about it briefly. We ended our turn, and our opponent had X number of cards in their hand, okay? And we had Jozu Buggy on board. Our opponent took their turn. They had X number of cards plus 1, because they drew for turn, okay? They played out 2 cards, so now they have X minus 1, except one of them is Kuzan, So they went +1. Okay, so they're still at X, and they pass back to us. And they also swun at us. So they took a card out of our hand. So we're -1. We take our turn. We're back to Y, where we ended our turn. Okay? And then we go swing 7. We take 2 cards out of their hand. Now they're X -2. And then we go Law, bounce the Kuzan, bounce our Jozu. Now they're back to X -1. And then we play Jozu, bounce their other thing. Now they're back to just X. And we're actually just literally in the exact same game state. We're genuinely, both players, I think, have the exact same number of cards in their hand and same board presence as they did before all of that started, which is just the only thing that changed really is that the BY gets 2 extra cards in their trash. So to me, that just doesn't sound like a winning recipe. To me personally, for the Dofi, I don't think you two turn skipping yourselves or each other benefits this player. So I actually think I hate the way Giovanni played that. I feel like we could have made an insane amount of progress, I think, and instead we kind of just stalled the game. And now Mirko is going to awaken here. I think I would have liked it slightly more if he had at least put the Jinbei on board, but even that maybe doesn't feel that good simply because... Oh, he's not even going to fully awaken here. Because he had to use the Flampe as counter. And so I guess that was the one really nice thing about what happened, was that we did force him to use the Flampe as counter. Mirko now having 7 cards in hand. Maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe Giovanni turn skipping ends up really good here, but I think just conceptually it sounds like not that great. But we'll see. We'll see. Seven, I imagine this takes a card out of hand. It absolutely has to take a card out of hand. Yep. Honestly, doing kind of the same thing we did last turn doesn't seem like the worst thing here. But this time we'll play down the Jinbei. And I would hope this time we would keep the Law in play. I mean, really? Bouncing the Sabo. Yeah, he's grabbing the Kuzan like, hey, you want to grab this one, friend? No, I don't. I'm not in love with bouncing the baby Sabo there. I'm not exactly sure why we're not bouncing the Kuzan. The Kuzan's going to take a card out of our hand and is going to get rid of one of our Jozus. I feel like this is just a huge misstep. I'm going to go ahead and play Hiyori Baby Luffy, and then we'll awaken that way. I think actually not even going for the full awakening. See, like, we should, like, if he had a baby Sabo on board, I don't think we really care. I don't know. Like, he's just going to replay it. Like, for sure, not bouncing the Kuzan was a huge misstep. I'm not exactly sure what he was thinking there. It's so much easier for them to replay this baby than it is for this Kuzan. And this Kuzan just dealt with our Jozu, which is actually like a huge deal. Um, a huge deal. Having the Jozu body is like actually so important. And the BY player currently has 8 cards in hand and is a 7k leader. Now only 7 cards in hand. Or no, it's still 8. It's still 8. My apologies. It was 9. Now it's 8. I think we're just gonna. I mean, we're gonna have to pudding. It's as simple as that. I really think that the way that we win here is we pudding. We swing over the. Okay, yeah. We can get rid of that. Yeah, I'm cool with that. Yeah. That's good. And then, yep. And then we'll just go ahead and swing 7 into Kuzan. He's always going to let this die. He is going to be able to awaken. He'll be able to pop one of our 4s. I don't know if he has access to Sabo in any way. I don't think he does unless he... I don't know if he has access to either the little or big Sabo. I'm going to swing 9. Yep. We'll go ahead and take that. Looks like we are looking to play Gecko just to awaken again. Flampe and the baby Luffy. So we should be able to be 7k 1 life. We'll be able to get rid of one of those threats on board. I don't think it matters too much which one we do. Get a draw card. We are still at 7 cards in hand. Honestly, I really feel like Giovanni could have won this game, and I think it's pretty much over. I think he had a huge opportunity to win this game, and I think he actually just has no chance now. I think he played it too slow, to be honest with you. I don't think that this strategy is conducive to winning. And I think if he plays like this again in game 2, I just can't imagine a world where he wins. I think it's cute. I think it feels like in the moment, like, ooh, I'm being kind of annoying. He's trying to play around pudding, and I'm bouncing his stuff. But ultimately, he wasn't making any progress. And if you don't make any progress versus BY, they're just gonna get to the late game and they're gonna Gecko Moira you. He didn't even Gecko Moira full combo at all. Yeah, and Mirako correctly assessing that he should just win the game next turn if he counters out of this. So he's just, yeah, but the thing is he didn't even have to, right? Like he could have easily just taken that and then Gecko'd the following turn and been 9k 1 life and he would have been fine, right? So Mirako just kind of recognizing like I win the game next turn. The math says that Giovanni dies, so we're just gonna go for it. Yeah, just not a huge fan of how Giovanni played that, to be completely honest. Bouncing our own Jinbei, not pressuring the opponent at all. Our going second hand looks honestly pretty solid as Giovanni. We have a Sengoku, a Teach, a Buggy, the Law, the Jozu. It's good stuff. Drew for turn the Law, and then the Sengoku grabbed a Crocodile. I'm not exactly sure what our other options were. I see a Weevil there on top. I would love to play that Weevil off the top of my deck on 4 Dawn personally. Either that or actually even just establishing the Teach and doing it would be good too. Um, just because the teach body is real. Um, it is something that the BY player does have to respect, but I don't know, man. I assume that Giovanni is a strong player who has tested this matchup a fair bit. Because this is a 12-person invite only tournament. That said, I don't think he gets the matchup. To be quite frank, I don't think his strategy is a good one. Um, we'll see if it works out in this game. I have no idea. I think so far the other two matches we watched were both 2-0s. Um, but I'm just like, dude, we have this Weevil in our hand. We're never going to be able to get it out, basically, unless we see a Jinbei. Um, I don't know. I do not know. I don't think that this is going to end well. We're not even playing the Jozuan curve. Um, yeah, I guess we were able to go Weevil teach, which seems fine. But we're still just not attacking the BY. I've tried the Starve a lot. Um, I thought I liked it at one point. I think I no longer like it. I would rather just unga bunga force them to have everything, you know? I feel like when you starve the BY player, if they really know what they're doing, they're gonna find a way to navigate it because you give them infinite time. So I think it can work a lot versus weaker players for sure. But I think stronger players, um, you give them too much time to navigate it, and they're gonna start doing some crazy shit like play Gecko Moira, bring back Flampe, Hiyori. They're gonna do some crazy shit, man. They're gonna find a way to navigate it if you give them infinite time. So we're on 8 Dawn here. Not 100% sure why we've. Dude, we just love not establishing bodies. Giovanni loves it. He loves not establishing bodies. Gonna go 10 here. I have to imagine this is gonna force our opponent to take. He might do one of those things where he like counters with one card and takes. I could definitely see a world where he just puts this Rocket Luffy in trash. I think that's a very viable thing to do in this spot. I'd be a little surprised if he didn't do it, to be quite frank. Um, like, surely that is always the play. But maybe not. I'm not necessarily a BY main by any stretch of the imagination. He doesn't seem to think it's as quite of a snap decision as I do. He's just going to take. Okay, I think that's pretty interesting, honestly. He's getting pretty large in hand. We're going to rest 4 for Kuzan. Not even that interesting. He's going to do one of the half awakens again. Makes sense. Gonna go ahead and pop this Weevil, I would imagine. We will end up with, I believe, 8 cards in our hand if we do this. Gonna go ahead and pop the Teach. Yeah. I mean, surely we have to put in here. He's gonna Jozu put in. I'm fairly certain of it. Yeah. I wonder if he's gonna choose to swing into the Sabo or not. I think he is. I have to imagine we'll defend this. But maybe not. Most of the time they don't protect their board, but I just feel like it's only going to take 1 card out of our hand to keep this 6k body. That feels not bad to me at all. Especially when, as the BY player, I have to imagine after this pudding, we don't want the game to go extremely long. But maybe he's decided that since he doesn't have a way to awaken, we've kind of putting him into the gulag, which is like very fortunate for Giovanni that Mirko has not found any ways to take his own life here. Extremely fortunate. I think we counter this every day of the week. Every day of the week and twice on Sunday. And then here we just have to take infinite cards out of Mirko's hand. And I do think we actually are going to find a way to game 3. I think we had to get pretty fortunate with the pudding. But we're just going to take like genuinely infinite cards out of his hand at this point. Like actually just infinite cards. Because we can do... We'll have 4 left over, so we can do... I think we can do 889. 7, 8, 8, 9. Also pretty sus that he took the 7. Starting with the 9 seems a bit off. Actually, you can start with the 9 here just because... yeah, just because he took the 7, which taking the 7 was like crazy behavior, I think. I don't know why he took the 7. I also don't know why we're swinging 7 there. It definitely should have been 8. We should just be going 8, 8. I don't know what was going on that last turn, honestly. If someone in the comments is just smarter than me and they get it, feel free to explain it. I would love to hear. But I actually just think basically everything that both players did there was wrong. I think starting with the 7 Jozu was fine. I think starting with the 7 Jozu was actually pretty good, but I think not countering it was pretty sus. Not countering it seemed really sus to me personally. This is a truly awful Dofi hand. So, homie is fried. Unless he gets a lot of help off of this first draw and this blind hit. He's not even going for it. He's not even going for it. You don't care. He's just going to try and Gravity Blade his opponent twice and starve them and hope that gets there. We'll see. Maybe Giovanni's approach works. It worked that game. I think he needed a lot of help from that pudding, to be honest with you, but it worked. There's no doubt about that. I think I would personally. I would have bounced the Sabo, I think, personally. He bounced both, so it actually doesn't matter. This has actually turned out pretty decent for Giovanni. Getting to bounce both and establish the Jinbei body, and you still have this Teach body and the Sengoku for a later bounce. It's actually not a bad spot. You have the pudding, you have the gravity blades in case he plays into either of those. And Mirko's hand is pretty bad. Pretty awful, I would say. No 5-drops in sight for Mirko. Honestly, don't even hate the idea of kind of running back what we did last turn. Don't even hate that idea, honestly. This time we could do it while establishing a Jozu body, which is nice. Really considering his options. This is a tough turn for sure. Yeah. Oh, it's a tough spot for Mirko for sure. My gut instinct is that he should counter, but I'm uncertain. Like, I think I would give up Hiyori and the Nami. Did he just give us a 2-1-1 for a 7 swing? Interesting. And I didn't get a chance to see what he's putting back on top of his life. This was... Huh. Did he draw into the Rocket Luffy? I think he did. Either that or it was hidden away somewhere else in his hand. I imagine we're taking the 7 here. It's not unreasonable to counter out of it, though. Pet peeve of mine is people countering and not showing me both cards. I think most of the time people are doing it, they're not trying to be scummy, but there are people who do. So please, just show your opponent the cards you're countering with. Don't just like throw them in the trash the way that Giovanni did, where Mirko had to check. I'm sure these two players are friendly. They probably know each other, maybe even in the same testing circle. They don't seem like they're in as a laughing good mood as some of the other matches we've seen, so maybe they're not that friendly or familiar, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were. Gonna go ahead and pass here. Mirko gonna go ahead and play out this Garp. Oh, it's a weird turn for sure. Did he miss? No, okay. I was like, yo, that's kind of crazy. Yeah, this is tough for sure. It's so much easier if he had a Hiyori instead of a Flampe here. Gonna go ahead and Flampe, draw two. Still not much in terms of great options for Mirko here. The puddings have been extravagant for Giovanni. And credit to him for finding the spots to do it, right? He has played the game in a way that um, I wouldn't have necessarily, but he's found a way to navigate it to put himself in a winning position in both games 2 and 3. So, absolutely, absolute credit to him for sure. Um, Mirko here playing in a way where he still has 3 active Dawn because he was trying to leave it open in case he drew a Flampe and he could go up to 2 life that way. Um, but he didn't want to play the Sabo before swinging because if he swung and his opponent took, then and it was a gravity blade, he lost on the spot. That said, I don't think Giovanni is ever taking a 5 swing, so I think maybe he played a little bit too cautious. Um, Hard to say. Here, swinging 7. Um, and we're just going to go ahead and Gravity Blade. Say, hey, we got these cards out of your hand. I'm going to go ahead and swing 5. And I'm either going to get a card out of your hand now, or I'm going to get um, potentially 4 cards out of your hand later. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is disaster for Mirko. This is looking pretty Jover. This is like the definition of Jover. Um, have to give the last card, and then he'll go ahead and swing 5, and then 6, and then there's the fist bump. Congratulations for Giovanni. Even though I was a little critical of the way he was playing, he found a way to win, which who knows if I would have, right? So absolute credit to him. That was impressive. Um, Maybe something to try to implement more into my repertoire, you know? Anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.